Okay, guys, this is our review for the quadratics unit. So a lot of material. This is our biggest unit so far that we've done for the entire semester. So this goes back to Unit 5 and Unit 6. So 5.1 to 6.8 or 6.9, which is this review. So things we've covered, so you'll need to go back, but things we covered in this particular section since our last quiz. So there was another review. If you look at the review that we did for 6.6, it had another checklist. But since 6.6, this is what we've done. Writing the equation of a quadratic, giving the vertex and one other point. So vertex and a point, given the two x-intercepts and another point. You know how to write that with intercept form. If I give you any 3 points using your TI Inspire. And then we did conversion. So conversion of a quadratic function from vertex to standard, intercept to standard, and then from standard to intercept, and from standard to vertex form. So they're all things that we needed to do since our last assessment. So let's take a look. Now, if I look at the review, some of the review goes back to material we did earlier, 5.1 to 6.8. So this isn't by no means the exclusive review. You should really review the review from Unit 5 and the one previously in Unit 6 to make sure we cover all that content from the last two assessments. This particular case, I'm adding two complex numbers. Add the real part and the imaginary part. This becomes 7 plus 5i minus 2i. This is 7 plus 3i. Next one, I to the 51st power. The key to powers of I is to divide that number by 4. So if I divide that by 4, we're going there one time. That's 4, leaves me a 1. 4 goes into here 2 times, that's 8, with the remainder of 3. So my answer is I to the third power because of the remainder. You can just write that. This is I cubed. And remember, I cubed is I squared times I. I is negative, I squared is negative 1. So this is just negative I is the answer for that. Okay. 1 over 3 minus I. The key to this problem is to multiply by the complex conjugate. So that is 3 plus I over 3 plus I. On the top, you're going to get 3 plus I. On the bottom, when you FOIL that together, 3 times 3, you get 9. You get minus 3i plus 3i minus I squared. So to simplify this further, you're going to have 3 plus I. And then what happens is these I terms go away. And on the bottom, you get 9 minus negative 1. So 9 minus negative 1. So this is 3 plus I over 10, or 3/10 plus, you can write it as 1/10 I, or I over 10. The one that you see here, number 4, is just multiplying these numbers. So when I multiply, I get 1 times 2, so I get 2, plus 2i minus I squared. So that's 2 plus I, and this is minus negative 1. So this becomes 3 plus I. Number 3, provide the requested information and graph the function. This is a parabola in vertex form. So y is equal to a, x minus h squared plus k. They're asking me for the direction of opening. This will open down, so I know that the shape of this parabola has to look like this. The vertex is going to be negative 3, 4. The axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. So if I go over to negative 3, that's the axis of symmetry that I'm drawing right now. Okay, axis of symmetry, negative 3, 4 is going to be the vertex. And now I just need enough information to accurately graph this. So I'll pick a couple points on either side. So let's figure out what happens at -2 and we'll say 0. So at 0, so when I plug in a 0, I get 9, that's a -9 plus 4, so -5. When I plug in a -2, that's going to give me a 1, so 4 minus 1 is going to be 3. So -2, 3, so that means I get this matching point, and 0, -5, which means I also get the matching point right here. Okay. And so then I know what this graph does. Which is there, okay? Now, other things I could have asked you, I could have asked you for the x-intercepts on this, which means you would set this equal to 0 and solve that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess that would be a rational number here. So if I were to ask you for the x-intercepts, then that means negative, so x plus 3 squared plus 4 equals 0. That means that x plus 3 squared is equal to 4. Take the square root of both sides, you get x plus 3 equal plus or minus square root of 4. X plus 3 equal plus or minus 2. X equal -3 plus or minus 2. So that means x is going to be equal to -5 or -1. And if I'd done a little bit more accurate graph, I see -1 here and -5. Those would have been my x-intercepts. So that is the end of the first page.